Welcome to the News Channel 8 PewterReport.com fantasy football forecast. Dan Lucas here with Andrew Scavelli of PewterReport.com. It is week 13, Andrew. It's a critical time because in many leagues this is it, right? This is the end of the regular season. Some leagues have maybe another week to play, but this could be you're either in or out if you're at the bottom of your playoff bracket. So this is
really
critical.
The last opportunity for a lot of those guys, just right on the cusp. So this is going to be a huge week.
As tradition continues here, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a bit because we've got some good numbers. Obviously, it's against the 49ers, but going up against Carolina this week, you got Jameis, you got Mike Evans. What do you think about the Bucs this week?
Well, certainly it took them 12 weeks, but last week against the 49ers, they finally played a complete game in all three phases. Certainly, Jameis, last week I predicted that he would score 25 points. I believe he got 24, but this is going to be a much tougher test against the Carolina Panthers front seven. I'm expecting him to be under a lot more pressure this week. Right now, I have him as a top 12 fantasy quarterback play and certainly a high upside QB2. And in terms of his weapons, right now I'm sticking with the guys that Jameis is comfortable with. So Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, and Adam Humphries are probably the three big Bucs targets that I'm looking at. And certainly Humphries this week has a chance to be a really sneaky wide receiver 3, potentially flex play if they want to exploit that same matchup that he had the first time around. And in terms of guys I really don't like on the Bucs right now, Chris Godwin and Deshaun Jackson. I'm putting them on the bench.
Okay, on the bench. So you like Humphries. I like it. I like it. All right, critical picks, obviously. Give me a running back that you think must play this week if he's on your roster.
Well, at running back, obviously, it was a devastating blow this past week with Melvin Gordon with that ACL strain. He's likely going to miss some time, and obviously, certainly for the fantasy playoffs, who knows if he'll be back at any point. The guy that I would certainly target to go after if he's still available is Austin Eckler, his backup. Right now, he's only owned, well, actually, I would say he's probably owned in most leagues. So if he's certainly not available and, you know, for that plug-and-play running back 1 to take over from Gordon, I really like Carlos Hyde of the Jaguars because this past week Leonard Fournette decided to take up boxing, so he's going to be suspended for a game. I believe Hyde is probably the more likely pickup between the two, and I think he'll be good for 20 touches against the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, wide receiver. There's some options out there.
Yes, well, wide receiver certainly. DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers was a guy that we kind of told everybody to keep their eye on early in the year. Over the last 2 weeks, he actually had 90 yards receiving. Last week, I believe with Devin Funchess out, his role really started to pick up, and certainly if Funchess is out again, I'm expecting him to do some really big things against the Bucs defense that allows the 5th most fantasy points to receivers.
Good stuff. All right, tight end. This is an interesting one as well.
As we alluded to earlier, I think Cameron Brate is really the obvious play this week, certainly with O.J. Howard being out for the year now, and obviously him being one of Jameis Winston's favorite targets, and certainly his favorite target in the red zone. I think he's a great play. And also the Panthers give up, believe it or not, the most fantasy points to tight ends.
Interesting. That is interesting. I don't think a lot of people knew that. Panthers, by the way, 6-5, so it's not all rosy for them. This is
they've been very up and down, very inconsistent.
Yeah, big game for them as well. Okay, defense. You've been doing pretty well on these defenses this year. You didn't have the Bucs defense last week, but hey,
no,
we're going to give the Bucs that.
I don't think anybody saw that coming. But
exactly.
You know. Why don't we go with the Seattle Seahawks, who also, I mean, obviously, certainly the Buccaneers went up against the 49ers. They had a season-best 12 fantasy points, so the Seattle Seahawks will take them on at home. The 49ers give up the 4th most fantasy points, so I think that's certainly a good option there. And I'll give you guys an extra bonus defense this week. I also like the Denver Broncos defense going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have struggled a lot lately, and certainly now with Andy Dalton going on IR.
Driscoll playing.
Jeff Driscoll will get his first start, and I think that will really bode well for the Broncos.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Good stuff as always. Week 13. Everybody who's trying to get in the playoffs, good luck this week. Don't forget to make those picks for the Thursday night game. We'll see you next week on the Fantasy Football Forecast.